intention. Nights began to feel different before mornings ever did. For most of my life, I treated this food as insignificant, something optional, something you notice when you're younger, then quietly remove as routines simplify with age. I told myself it didn't matter anymore, that dinner was about feeling full, not strategic. That night was for rest, not support. That assumption stayed with me for decades, and it slowly cost me more than I realized. What finally forced me to reconsider wasn't a headline or advice from someone else. It was the contrast between nights. On evenings when my legs felt calmer, more settled, sleep came easier. On others, I felt that familiar heaviness again. The difference wasn't dramatic, but it was consistent. And consistency always points to cause, not coincidence. I started reintroducing this one simple food in the evening, carefully, without changing anything else. No supplements, no new routines, just this small adjustment. Within days, I noticed something subtle but important. My legs felt less restless at night. Turning in bed felt easier. Getting up in the dark required less hesitation. It wasn't a miracle. It was support. Quiet, functional support where my body needed it most. This food didn't make me stronger overnight. What it did was give my circulation something to work with while everything slowed down. It helped my legs stay warmer, steadier, less tense. And when circulation is supported at night, mornings feel different. The first steps feel more predictable. Balance comes back before fear has a chance to take over. What surprised me most was how long I had dismissed it. I had ignored it not because it didn't work, but because no one ever framed it as important after 75. We talk about food for energy, food for weight, food for comfort. We rarely talk about food as nighttime protection for circulation and stability. Once this food became part of my routine, nights stopped feeling like a test. They became a bridge. A bridge between the day I had and the day I wanted to wake up to. And that's when I realized something deeper was happening. Not just in how I slept, but in how my body prepared itself for the morning. Because what this food does while you sleep explains why waking up can feel either stiff and uncertain or steady and controlled. And that connection changes how you think about independence after 75. What truly changed my perspective was understanding that the night is not a pause. It's a process. While you sleep, circulation slows, muscles release tension, and your body shifts into maintenance mode. If nothing supports that process, the legs are the first to feel it. That's why nights quietly decide how safe and stable mornings will be, especially after 75. This food works in the background. It doesn't stimulate, it doesn't energize. It supports flow when movement is gone. While you lie still, it helps blood move more smoothly through the legs, preventing that heavy, stagnant feeling that creeps in when circulation weakens. The result isn't dramatic. It's noticeable in small moments. Less restlessness, less need to shift positions. A calmer sensation that lets your body stay relaxed instead of alert. I noticed it most when getting up at night. Before, standing felt cautious. My body needed a second to remember where it was in space. After making this food part of my evening routine, that pause shortened. My legs responded more willingly. Balance felt less fragile. That's when I realized something important. Stability in the morning isn't built when you wake up. It's prepared while you sleep. When circulation is supported overnight, the body doesn't have to catch up in the morning. Blood flow is already there. Muscles feel warmer, more responsive. That first step out of bed feels familiar instead of uncertain. And after 75, familiarity equals confidence. Confidence equals control. What surprised me was how quickly this change showed itself. Not as strength, but as trust. Trust in my legs. Trust in standing up without gripping furniture. Trust in walking to the kitchen without thinking about each step. That trust starts quietly, in the dark, hours before you open your eyes. This is why so many people feel worse in the morning without understanding why. They focus on what they do during the day, but ignore the long stretch of night where the body either preserves circulation or lets it fade. Once I understood that connection I stopped thinking of nights as passive time. They became preparation. And when preparation is consistent, the body responds in ways that restore confidence, not force effort. That shift explains why my mornings began to feel steadier, and why my fear of losing control slowly faded without me chasing it. The real proof showed up in the morning. Not in a dramatic way, but in how little I had to think. Before, getting out of bed felt like a small negotiation. I would sit for a moment, test my feet on the floor, make sure everything felt connected before standing. That pause used to feel normal. I told myself everyone my age did the same thing. But once nights began supporting my circulation instead of draining it, that pause started disappearing. I noticed it the first time I stood up without planning it. No hesitation, no bracing, just movement. My legs felt less stiff, more awake, even before I had taken a single step. Balance felt quieter, more automatic. That's an important word after 75. Automatic. When balance works without conscious effort, confidence returns naturally. What surprised me most was how this affected the rest of my day. I walked differently, not faster, but more assured. I didn't look for furniture when turning. I didn't think about where to place my feet. That constant background awareness, the one that whispers, "Be careful," grew softer. And when that voice fades, life feels larger again. This wasn't about strength. It was about continuity. My body stopped feeling like it reset every morning. Instead, it felt like it carried momentum from the night before. Circulation didn't need warming up. My legs didn't feel heavy or disconnected. The food I added in the evening didn't give me energy. It gave me readiness. I also noticed how mornings became more predictable. Predictability matters after 75. When you know how your body will respond, fear loses its grip. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop moving defensively. That shift alone changes posture, balance, and how safely you move through space. What struck me was how small the change had been, and how big the effect felt. I hadn't added exercise. I hadn't pushed myself harder. I had simply stopped ignoring what my body needed when everything slowed down. And that one decision quietly rewrote how my mornings began. That's when I understood something deeper. Independence doesn't come from doing more. It comes from supporting the moments that decide how your body feels before you even start your day. And that realization led me to a bigger conclusion about aging well after 75. What finally became clear to me is that independence after 75 is rarely lost in one big moment. It fades through small, repeated decisions that seem harmless at the time. Ignoring subtle nighttime signals, treating evenings as irrelevant, assuming that if you can still walk during the day, everything is fine. That mindset quietly sets the stage for decline. I realized that the body doesn't ask for dramatic changes. It asks for alignment. When nights stop supporting circulation, balance, and control, mornings begin with uncertainty. And uncertainty slowly reshapes behavior. You move less freely, you hesitate more, you start avoiding situations that once felt normal, not because you are incapable, but because your body no longer feels reliable. The shift I experienced wasn't about reversing age, it was about restoring continuity. When nights began working for me instead of against me, my body stopped feeling fragmented. Sleep, waking, standing, walking, it all felt connected again. That connection is the foundation of autonomy. Without it, even strong people become cautious. With it, even aging bodies move with confidence. What struck me most was how this change didn't require effort. It required attention. Paying attention to what happens when the lights are off, to how food, timing, and routine influence circulation when movement stops. That awareness alone put me back in control of decisions I didn't even know I was making wrong. After 75, you don't lose independence because you stop trying. You lose it because you stop noticing. Noticing is power. It allows you to adjust before fear enters the picture, before balance feels fragile, before mornings become something you brace for instead of step into. That's why I share this. Not to warn, but to reframe. Aging well isn't about pushing harder. It's about supporting the moments that decide how your body feels when no one is watching. Nights shape mornings. Mornings shape confidence. Confidence shapes how long you remain independent. Once I understood that, everything slowed down in the right way. I stopped reacting and started preparing. And preparation after 75 is the most underrated form of strength there is. If you stayed with me until now, it means you're paying attention. And that already puts you ahead of most people after 75. This channel exists for one reason, only to help you stay independent, steady, and confident in your own body for as long as possible, using simple choices that actually fit real life. If this message made you reflect, do one small thing for me. Leave a comment below and write, "Still independent." That tells me you're here, you're aware, and you're taking control instead of waiting for decline to decide for you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a like if this helped you understand your body in a new way. Each video builds on the last, and missing one can mean missing a key piece of how circulation, balance, and daily habits work together after 75. And don't stop here. The next video is already on your screen, and it goes deeper into another simple habit that protects your legs and stability as you age. Click it now and keep moving forward with intention.